If this is your first time clicking on a video like this, you might want to try out episode 1 or episode 5 as a good starting point. Or if you don't care and just want to listen or have caught yourself up with everything else, enjoy. Omega, episode 10, Under the Weight. Recap. Omega Squad with Dolo has made their way into an ancient Florum city, dodging traps on their way. While exploring the city, they came across an ancient stone singer ship. But what really shocked them were the human bones that littered this ancient floor. Everyone stood in shock, looking upon a street that could only be described as a battlefield. Human skeletons clad in metal armor with fur around the neck and openings to the arms littered the area. One was pinned to the wall with stone-like spears. Another's bones were burnt black. Abraham could feel the lingering essence of something strong. He grabbed his head in discomfort. "Are you okay, Abraham?" Oscar asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. You know, Sophia and I felt the power of that artifact. Before the rest of us, at least." "Yeah, I do." "It's the same sensation, and I think it's coming from the Parthenon." "It could be another artifact," Sophia commented. "That's what I'm thinking," Abraham said, continuing on. Now and only did they start to understand why such a place was protected and hidden. Walking over more skeletons, some with their heads across the floor. A few skeletons were smashed between two giant rocks. Odd, dried blood structures stood, skeletons impaled upon them. That was when Oscar noticed something. Picking it off the ground, it was an old audio recorder. It appeared to still be operational. Pressing the playback button, audio started to spew out. "This is Omega Samson. Today I shall end this Khan invasion upon us all. I've tracked down the Great Khan to the Midnight City. They plan to use the most powerful item to become the Titan of Earth. This, of course, I cannot allow. I will cut down every Khan in my path, even if it takes my own life. If you find this, please give it to Skora, so that she may be able to have some closure. And to you, dear listener, if the Khans have been defeated, make sure no one finds the city or its secrets. Even in the best of hands, it will corrupt." Oscar's eyes lit up. "It all makes sense. The Khans invaded, I think, about over 2,000 years ago. That ship is Samson's, and this, well..." Oscar looked at the battlefield around him. He must have been a storm in combat. "Well, Abraham, this is a look at your future power." Abraham shook his head. "I don't think I could do all this. I'd feel terrible." I doubt we will have to go to war. We live in a mostly, peaceful time, if you can call our occupation peaceful, and ignoring the war between Shadow Weavers and Khans on the far side of the galaxy." "And the terrorist groups," Sophia interjected. "Well, all right. You might have a little bit of a war, but I doubt you will have to kill anyone." Dolo cleared his throat. "If this item is as powerful as Omega Samson's saying, shouldn't we go find it?" "You're right, and we get to look at it at least." "Well, lead on, Abraham," Oscar said, pointing towards the Parthenon. Scaling its stairs, more and more skeletons laid. Reaching the top, you couldn't move without stepping on bone or rusted armor and weapons. "You want to know a cool fact about the Khans?" Oscar continued. "The Khans despise weavers so much that some purposely train in our fighting styles without weave, so that they can defeat us that way. As you can imagine, one Khan wouldn't be a problem for a weaver. But when it's 100,000 to 1, things get fairly interesting." "There's really that many Khans?" Dolo asked. "Of course! How else do you think they've been fighting the Shadow Weavers for so long?" They entered the Parthenon. It was like a painting of war frozen in time, bodies littering the floor, and in the middle, two skeletons impaled by each other's weapons, one in simple robes, another in golden Khan armor. "Is that who I think it is?" Abraham said. "I'm pretty sure that this is the resting place of both One of the great Khans and Omega Samson, Oscar said, getting a closer look. So Samson's weapon seems to be a small little hammer. We should leave the tomb alone, Sophia scolded. Hey, don't worry. If there is one thing I do respect, it's the dead, Oscar assured, getting up. A power emanated from Samson's bones, one that only Abraham could feel, the same power that emanated from those murals back on Marmor. Onyx looked around and noticed something, a small glowing Florum terminal behind a large shield. Moving the shield, he grazed his hand over the terminal's floral design. An odd beep came from the terminal as it lit up brightly, blinding Onyx for a moment. Suddenly, though, the entire back wall shifted into the ground, a room taking its place. Unimaginable machines and computers lined the room, but most important and eye-catching was a green stone floating in the middle. The same design as the one from the library. Looks like you were right, Abraham. It's just another weird rock, Oscar complained. When he said Titan, I was expecting maybe a monster, Onyx lamented. I know, right? Imagine if we could fight a giant creature. Just, exclude 8 legs and we're good. Oscar got closer, almost touching the artifact. He could feel the power emanate from it, almost wanting to take him over. But he was pulled back when the sound of cracking bones got their attention. Rushing into the Parthenon was Wolf Squad, Scarlet leading the way, Ishin and the others not far behind. Thanks for leading us here. Although that little maze had us stumped for a sec. It would have been nice if you could have helped us. Scarlet giggled. She surveyed the room. So this is the Omega Squad. And you're the Omega, I'm guessing? She pointed towards Abraham. Yeah, what of it? He scowled. Oh, nothing. But I think my friend would speak to you first. Moving out of the way, behind her, Skarn gave a toothy grin. I thought I put you down last time. Maybe I should do something else, like purposely snapping your joints, letting them heal and doing it all over again. Abraham didn't say anything, his face a mixture of fear and anger. Drawing his weapon, Omega Squad followed suit. Oh, we don't have to fight, honey. We would gladly just take the artifact. And your pretentious-looking friend over there, Scarlet said, Ishin eyeing Oscar's every twitch. How about we focus the girl? Onyx whispered to Dolo. Sounds like a plan. I'll hit low, Dolo said, and I'll hit high. Both sides sat in quiet anticipation, so quiet, in fact, that you could hear the old bones creak. The sound of a large metal shield, though, came clamoring to the ground as the bell rang. Onyx and Dolo launched before anyone else, with lurching long lunges hammered into Scarlet's chest, followed by Dolo's mace. She went flying, flipping into the air, her spine twisted like a pretzel, unresponsive on the ground. Dolo and Onyx looked back at each other, then back at her. Scarlet's blood, though, started to float and glow a bright crimson. Flowing back into her body, it contorted back into position with a pop. Scarlet stood up, not a scratch on her. Nothing like a broken spine to get the blood flowing, she laughed, now taking Onyx and Dolo on the defensive. Across the room, a battle of ice and lightning took place. Fen's forward-flowing waves caught Sophia's sharp spikes. Out of respect for the dead, she tried angling the battle away from the skeletons. A deluge of damning ice, though, came her way. Sophia slinked away, almost smashing into Oscar's fight. Ishin watched Oscar as he moved back and forth. Have anything to say? Ishin cursed. Oscar rolled his eyes. What should I say? That I didn't do it? Or that you should have more faith in your friends? But I'm pretty sure I've said that how many times? 1,000? At least you're admitting to it now. Ishin rushed with burning flames of fervor. I didn't admit to anything, Prince. Oscar enveloped his weapon in blue warmth. Careening crimson showered from Ishan's craving blades. Both blue and red clashed, neither giving an inch, their heat-resistant skin saving them from any burns. The bright light almost blinded Abraham when Skarn rose from the smoke, like a demon deranged and demonic. Abraham dodged every pulverizing punch. "What's wrong, little Omega? Scared?" Skarn laughed. "No, not this time. I can face you." Abraham quaked, his hands shaking in horror. He placed a petite wall of stone, easily crushed by the bull's brutish brawn. "A little rock. That's all you can wreck?" Skarn bellowed. Abraham remembered the feeling of his ice shattering, followed by his bones. Not this time, though. He stood defiant, although one punch sent Abraham flying. A few moments passed as he opened his eyes again. Looking around, Abraham realized Omega Squad was not prepared for such a brawl. Onyx and Dolo were on their knees as Scarlet sickly sucked out their blood with crimson tendrils. Sophia was panting, never finding an opening against Fenn's downpour defense. The duel of red and blue had ended, smoke clearing to show Ishan's victorious dagger stabbed into Oscar's side, causing him to stumble backwards. "Looks like your guys lost," Skarn gloated over Abraham, but he did not respond. Abraham then felt it. A temptation, a sinister power emanating from the Phalorum artifact, floating only a few feet away. He reached for it, and Skarn stomped onto his hand, causing Abraham to groan in pain. "What are you reaching for, little Omega?" Skarn, looking at the artifact, felt the infatuation too. He reached out and grabbed the artifact. Another failure, Abraham thought. Then something started to happen. A reaction. Scarlet stopped her assault, her eyes widening. "You idiot!" she yelled. Abraham felt the pressure of Skarn's foot lift, looking over to see Skarn doubled over in pain. The artifact shining green between his fingers. First, his hands grew 10 times larger. A stony texture appeared on them. Screams of pain from Skarn as the rest of his body followed. The artifact moved between the rocky skin to his chest. The Parthenon's roof was ripped off by his sheer weight, size, and strength. Debris falling all around them, Scarlet grabbed Ishan by the collar. "I need you alive!" Ishan watched as debris fell in front of him. Scarlet, Finn, and Ishan left the hazard that Skarn has become. Sophia zipped around, rushing Oscar and Abraham to safety, with Dolo and Onyx running towards them. "What happened to him?" Abraham asked. "I'm not sure, but hey, at least we're about to get our monster fight," Oscar groaned, holding his side. "So that's the Titan," Dolo said. Omega Squad looked upon the Titan, green emerald eyes shining from its head. A shield of rock protected its Phalorum heart, any semblance of the man that existed now consumed by the Titan. Its roars echoed throughout the hidden city as it made its way toward Omega Squad. "Any ideas?" Abraham asked. Onyx thought, "Yeah. How much you want to bet that artifact was powering him?" "Dolo? Abraham? Follow me." Onyx ran through an alley. "Hey, what about Sophia and I?" Oscar sighed. "Are you okay, Oscar?" she asked. "No, I've been stabbed." Looking at him, her head shifted. "Can you at least cauterize it?" "Yeah, but it hurts," he pouted. "Well, it's either that or let the giant crush you." Oscar rolled his eyes. "Fine. Just bring me somewhere a little safer, and I'll be happy to burn myself. You do know how fire-resistant my skin is?" Meanwhile, the other three made their way onto Samson's old ship. "All right, we're going to fly this into that Titan." Onyx smiled. "Wait, what?" Abraham looked astonished. "Are you sure this is smart?" Dolo worried. Onyx ran to a corner of the ship. "Okay, when we smash it into the Titan, we have to stoneweave armor around ourselves." "Got it," Dolo yelled, pumped and ready. "I haven't learned that yet," Abraham said. "Oh, I know, but this is the best time to learn." Onyx smiled. All right, so if you remember history class, we each have to be in a corner. 4 of us to get this thing off the ground. Since there's only 3 of us, I'll stand on this side alone. I'm a little more experienced. Getting in position, stabbing their weapons into the ground, they focused their weaves as it felt as if they were lifting a building. Beads of sweat formed on Abraham's head. They felt it lift off the ground as it got higher and higher in the air. The weight diminished as they took a moment to recuperate, them now flying in the air in a stone ship. The Titan marched and mashed at Oscar and Sophia, them launching fire and lightning to no avail. It ripped a stony building out of the ground with ease, catapulting it at them. Sophia dashing away, grabbing Oscar too. Debris littered the air as the stone ship closed in. All right, put your weave into overdrive and let's alleviate any fear, as we are children of stone. Onyx rallied, staring at the front window, plowing directly at the Titan. Abraham's hands shook with fear and strain. The Titan turned around to see them charging courageously. It reeled back its arm for a seismic punch. Armor now! Onyx commanded, as they collided with the fist, stone flying like fireworks. Dola lost all momentum, falling to the ground, his stone armor protecting him. Abraham's armor never came, as his body was peppered with fragments of rock. In the nick of time, though, he relied on his water cushioning his crash into a building. Onyx exploded from the floating wreckage, hammer held high, a careening crack of the Titan's chest as Onyx's hammer made contact, its artificial heart now laying bare for the whole world to see. As Onyx descended in the air, the Titan slapped him away with the force of a hurricane. He skipped like a rock, eventually landing near everyone, except Abraham. Onyx gave a thumbs up to Oscar, who was looking worried. "Rock armor!" he gasped, trying to hide the pain. The storm calmed for a second as the monster made its way towards Omega Squad. "Does anyone have enough energy to take it down?" Oscar asked, holding his cauterized wound. "I wish, but I'm pretty empty," Onyx panted. "I don't know if I can move everyone so fast, let alone dare shoot lightning at it," Sophia cried. As it descended upon them, from a roof a ball of ice was thrown at the Titan's head. "Over here, Skarn!" Abraham stood upon a building, weapon drawn, frozen frost formed upon its blade. The Titan attacked, smashing Abraham through the roof to the bottom floor. Moments passed as nothing moved from the rubble. It began to march upon Omega Squad again. "Turn around, Skarn!" Abraham stood defiantly, his body covered in cuts and bruises. Abraham used a barrage of rocks upon its chest. The Titan covered its heart with one hand, looming and moving towards the Omega. Abraham braced as he couldn't dodge a power punch from the beast. The lumbering Titan laughed as Abraham crashed like a meteor into the street. It all went black, and Abraham found himself in a colorful garden. A small pond took center stage, with a family of ducks eating breadcrumbs thrown by a shadowy figure laying on its side. It radiated the same energy as his metal. "Why fight such a monster?" he asked. I'm not sure myself," Abraham responded, looking at his reflection in the purple water. "Is that the truth, or do you not want to admit something?" "What do you mean?" "Oh, don't play coy with me. Like I said back on that snowy hellhole, what I feel, you feel. So I'll ask again, why fight such a monster?" "So others don't have to," Abraham said, his reflection broken as a piece of bread breaks the still water. "Ah, but there's more, isn't there? A slight dash of something festering." The figure moved towards him. "We both know what it is." Abraham, though, was ripped back to the world of pain. The feeling of broken ribs, smell of fresh blood, and a living, beating heart. He opened his eyes. The Titan's green pupils bore holes into his soul. It smiled sinisterly as it raised both hands, clasping them together as a heavy hammer at Abraham the nail. He stood again, body aching with each beat of his heart, legs wobbly, barely able to keep him up. Taking a deep breath, his metal began to sing. The horrific hammer came down. Oscar dared not to look. Sophia had a quiet sorrow, but Dolo and Onyx felt something, a determined defense. The smoke cleared. Clad in stone, unmovable was the Omega. "What did I say? There's no better teacher than now," Onyx celebrated, picking up Oscar like a doll. Oscar groaned in pain while being crushed. Sophia smiled and Dolo cheered. Again the Titan attacked. On the surface, Abraham looked heroic and immortal, but inside the armor was a mortal, barely holding on by a thread, who still felt the shock of every punch. His bones were broken, his flesh torn. He used his metal to control the stone armor like a skeleton, wielding wonderful weaves of both rock and water, intertwined as a downpour of ore. The Titan's fist came once again. Abraham moved like a wave of weave, watching as it smashed into the ground, barely missing him. The Omega created a cornerstone cuff of its plan, trapping the fist in both stone and water. Running up its forearm, a sweeping slam from its other arm missed the now flipping Omega. His weapon ready, he pierced into the artificial heart. The Titan screamed in pain, writhing around like a truck. The Omega pressed deeper into the heart, his armor unable to command his broken bones, pushing all his weight into the blade. The sound of shattering glass was audible from the heart. The Omega screamed in fervor with pierced lungs as he brought the Titan down. A blast of weave came from the heart, causing Abraham to stumble away, metal in hand. The Titan shrunk back to the feeble Skarn, unconscious on the ground, the artifact still lodged in his chest. Abraham's armor fell off chunk by chunk, then falling to his knees. His skin blistered with blood, bones so gnarled he couldn't dare to move any more. Omega Squad ran to him, trying to help, while Wolf Squad watched in the shadows. They thought of pouncing them, but then coming into the city was a large force of ESF soldiers who had tracked down their missing APC. "It's time for us to go," Scarlet commanded. "What about Skarn?" Ishan asked, watching as Oscar ran to the ESF soldiers, informing them of Abraham's critical condition. He was the fool for touching the artifact without the proper containment, or leaving the idiot. Fen spoke up. "But—" Ishan tried to speak as Scarlet rose her voice calmly. "No buts. We're going unless you feel like fighting them all alone." She looked at him with eyes of piercing seriousness. As Wolf Squad then slowly snuck out of the city, they made it to the entrance, where the ESF soldiers had moved down into the town. Thinking it was safe, they made their way down the hallway, where the sound of fast frost echoed. Launching past them at inhuman speeds was Leo, locking eyes with Ishin for only a few moments. But Leo was too preoccupied to turn around. Making their way to the exit, ESF soldiers were around the 3 APCs. Luckily, though, with Scarlet's quick thinking and bloodweave, they made their way through the ESF soldiers, running to where they had hidden their beetle mounts. Just as they left, Ishin turned around, seeing Abraham carried out by Leo, placing him into an APC. Ishin then turned his head away. The only thing on his mind was where would they go, and what would they do next? I would just like to thank you for listening to this video. And if you have any comments or criticisms, tell me down below. Other than that, thank you.